Good afternoon, dear Medyascope viewers. Today, we will talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which concluded with ceasefire early morning today. The Egyptian brokered ceasefire went into effect as of 2 a.m. in the morning. After 11 days of bloodshed, which influenced the Palestinian side much more heavily, Israel and Hamas stopped the fight. Both Israel and Hamas have claimed victory in the conflict. Recent tensions had started in East Jerusalem during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan and spread to Gaza. For more than 10 days, Israel has been launching attacks on the blockaded Gaza Strip. According to the Gaza-based Health Ministry, at least 232 Palestinians have been killed in the Gaza Strip. Today, Miral Hamad, a Palestinian from East Jerusalem, will be joining us to talk about the recent events. Hamad is a 21-year-old Palestinian, was born in and grew up in East Jerusalem. She is a university student in Istanbul, Turkey. She is in her hometown since the beginning of the recent conflict. Hi, Miral.
Hi.
Thank you for joining
having me.
Thank you. Miral Hamad is a Palestinian from East Jerusalem. She is 21 years old and was born and grew up in East Jerusalem. She is a university student in Istanbul, and she is in her hometown since the beginning of the events. Miral, first of all, can you tell about the recent days in East Jerusalem?
Yes, of course. The last 10 days we've been very scared, and we were looking at the news of the whole time. They were like attacking and arresting to the Palestinians in Jerusalem. Also, we were looking at what is happening in Gaza at the same time, because Gaza is a part of Palestine and it's not separated from it. So we were so scared for them. People were killed, and a lot of massacres were committed against the civilians there. More than 200 people got killed, and also children were killed as well. Whole families were massacred, actually. So the whole Palestinians here in Jerusalem were actually looking at what is happening in Gaza every day. We were watching the news and very scared. At the same time, protests did not stop in Jerusalem, in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, and in the old Jerusalem, old city, to actually protest against the Israeli policies in Jerusalem and in Gaza, and actually in all the parts of Palestine.
And now the fight stopped at least for a while, and we saw from the pictures and videos that there are some celebrations in Jerusalem, Gaza, and West Bank. Palestinians were celebrating the ceasefire with slogans. Did you attend those celebrations? And can you tell us about what's happening today and what happened in the morning today?
Yeah. Personally, I didn't attend because, I didn't have the opportunity to do so. However, yes, people were celebrating. And yesterday, actually, it was unplanned and very unconsciously, people went to the street and celebrated this. Because, there are a lot of reasons why they celebrated. One of them is because, of course, the bombing stopped after a lot of people got killed, so people were happy and relieved, so no more people will get killed. And even if you look at the people in Gaza, the people who went out to the streets, they were actually kissing and hugging each other because they made sure that each one is safe, and because everyone actually from them was expecting that they will be the next. So they were happy for this. Secondly, some people, and people like Palestinians in general, they considered this as victory. And why they counted this as victory? Because firstly, in this last war, we see a unification of the Palestinians. All the Palestinians in the whole land, in the 48 lands, and Jerusalem and West Bank, Gaza, even refugees, like the Palestinian refugees outside of Palestine, even the Palestinian intellectuals in Europe and United States, all of them stood against the Israeli policy. Thirdly, because we see a type of development in the technology of resistance that Palestinians are having now. They are now able to threaten. Now they are able to actually, send a message to Israel to show them that, you cannot make an action without a consequence. It's a kind of, you can consider it as an alternative solution to the international community, because people in Jerusalem especially, they waited for a long time for the international community to interfere and stop the attacks from Israel towards these civilians and Palestinian and worshippers in the Aqsa Mosque, or against the dispossession of land and houses in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. But no one interfered. So there was an alternative solution that is coming from Gaza to actually stop these attacks. And to some extent, they did succeed in doing this. What did Israel achieve from entering Gaza? They only achieved killing civilians. I mean, their military purpose. Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, entered Gaza with the purpose to actually gain back his popularity, and he went out with actually, like, all the media now is speaking and talking and speaking up against Netanyahu, because for them it was a failure, because they went to Gaza in order to destroy the political movements there, but they went out with actually nothing but death of civilians and destruction of buildings, and even attacking the UN offices in Gaza. So this whole thing led the Palestinians yesterday and today, unconsciously and without planned, to go to the streets and to actually appreciate Gaza. And of course, we're still very sad of all the civilians that we lost, but they went there to actually appreciate the stand that Gaza, the position that Gaza made, and all of the like all of the death and stuff. It didn't go like for nothing. It's a kind of hope. Yes, I would consider it as a hope that they give to the Palestinians, that we are still able to do something. Yes, our power is not equal to Israel. That's definitely, like, cannot even be like discussed. Israel has one of the strongest military. It has the strongest defense systems. It's very strong. It's not equivalent to Palestinians in Gaza, but regardless of all of this, they are still able to do something. And this thing is what made Palestinians to celebrate today and celebrate yesterday. So yeah.
I was also planning to ask you about this victory claims, because both sides claimed victory after this conflict, and I understand that you and maybe the most of the Palestinians feel the victory and make celebrations now, right?
Yes, of course, like, both sides will not admit, like, Israel will not admit that it failed. It's the idea that we can look at the media, at the newspapers of Israel, to understand if this is victory or not. Newspapers in the whole Israel was actually blaming Netanyahu for the failure, and they were saying that you failed again. All the wars that all the previous war is Netanyahu was going, not just Netanyahu, all the Israeli government was going to Gaza in order to destroy the political movements in Gaza, and every time they fail, every time. And each war we see a type of development in technologies, and this time it was the same. There were rockets that actually, some political movements in Gaza are established, that they now reach to places they never reached before. All of these things are considered a type of victory to the Palestinians. Of course, if we want to compare numbers, for Palestinians, it's not just numbers. It's much more valuable than numbers. We don't look at numbers. We look at at hope. Gaza, it was under siege for more than 15 years. They have nothing. They were, if you look at the geography of Gaza, Israel is from one side. You have the sea and you have Egypt. This is Gaza. They have no one. But when you look at Israel, they have all access to weapons. They are, it's defense. It's Iron Dome, the defending system. It's one of the strongest defending systems in the world. It's funded by the U.S. with millions of dollars. So it's like, if you want to compare the two parties, they're not even nearly equal. But still, still people in Gaza were able to say something. They were able to do something to threaten. So with this limitation and restrictions of power they have, they were still able to send message to Israel that Jerusalem is a red line, don't cross it. The holy places are red line, don't cross it. Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, and not just Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, all of the other neighborhoods are red like a line, don't cross it. So it was more as emotional type of message. That's why it's like people in Palestine will consider it as a victory to them.
Okay, thank you so much then. And now there are celebrations there, but there were very violent attacks in for 11 days. And I'm wondering that how would you compare the last 11 days to the previous conflicts? Because lots of people said that it was different. Do you think so?
Uh-huh. Actually, for this, I know some people in Gaza. Okay, so I talked to them, and I was asking them like, how do you feel and everything like this. They were telling us we've never witnessed such a war. You know, they were bombing cities like madly. They were like bombing a whole tower. You know, which like a lot of families live there. They were actually bombing like schools, and this was said also by the UN. Um, all of these things that they were actually like in these 10 days they bombed like in madly without any like warning. A lot of times they were bombing without any warning, and even if they warned, I mean, they only give 2-3 minutes before the bombing. I mean, where should they go? It's a very populated place, I mean, and wherever they go, the bomb will reach them and they will be killed. So yeah, this time it was like the bombing was very different. Also, the what's also like a kind of differentiate this from the other wars is also the Palestinian side, and as I said before, the unification of the Palestinians. You know, this time all of the Palestinians stood together despite our conflicts and disputes between each other among the people themselves. They all stood with Gaza, and all they stood with together in order to stop the Israeli attacks. So this war was different also by like the development in the technology that Gaza had. You know, like now, as I said, also like they have rockets that reach to places they never reached before. So all of these things actually differentiated this war from the other wars that they witnessed actually. But I mean, I was talking to one friend, and she was telling me that, you know, they were stealing sleep because they were not able to sleep. The bombing is like continuous, and they're not all the, you know, sounds and stuff, and like they cannot even sleep. This fear that any second your house gonna be bombed, all of this actually made this war very, very brutal this time compared to all of the other times before.
And when people are celebrating the truce now, a Hamas official warned that their hands were on the trigger. And there is now a tension between Arabs with Israeli citizenships and Israeli Jews, and also the Palestinians in Jerusalem. Do you think this tension will also continue in upcoming days?
Like personally believe this tension will never go away. This tension was and will always be there between the Arabs and the Israelis in Jerusalem, especially because it's a very sensitive place for both sides. And that's why I don't think that this tension will go away. And with the Hamas leadership, what they said is only like a warning to Israel: if you think to bomb Gaza again, we will be ready to respond. And this also another change we can talk about. Like this time, they actually have a word, and they are actually influencing the Israeli policy, and they are threatening them: if you go back into bombing civilians, you know, you will find a consequence. This message that leaderships in Gaza were giving. And about the tension, yes, there will definitely be tensions in the upcoming days. And because, I mean, okay, there is now a type of, you know, like they cooled down the war, but the roots of the problems were not solved. I mean, Palestinians are still being oppressed in all parts of Palestine. So without a genuine and a real solution for this conflict, and I mean, we hope that this solution will come from the international community. This tension will always continue, because I mean, till today, settlers, the Israeli settlers, are trying to, attack and break into the holy places of the Palestinians. Till now, the people in Sheikh Jarrah, the families, are waiting for the court decision for the dispossession of their homes. So with all of this being continued, and I'm telling you, the Aqsa Mosque and the neighborhood represent the whole identity of the nation. If people stopped holding into this, we lost the whole identity. So that's why this tension will continue. Like if there's no a real consequence and punishments for the Israeli brutality in the whole Palestinian land, yes, definitely these tensions will continue, as well as the illegal settlements that are being built every day, with it being illegal by the international law and the United Nations resolutions. All of these things, of course, if they keep continuing without, without Israel giving attention and, being scared of their actions, yes, the tension will continue and will escalate again. I mean, this war will not be the last if Israel did not put restrictions and limitation to its brutality. We'll see more people getting killed. We'll see more massacres being committed towards the Palestinians. So yeah.
And Israel's Supreme Court postponed a hearing on the possible eviction of Palestinian families from their houses in Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. And after the decision of the court, we'll see what's going to happen there. But now, and there is truce, and people are celebrating with Palestinian flags in Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza Strip. And the question I wonder in this interview, I think this is the most interesting one. You are a 21-year-old young person and from Jerusalem. You go to university in Istanbul in Turkey, but now you're in your hometown, and I'm wondering your opinion about your country's future. What do you think or feel about the place you were born in?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, unfortunately, I wish I can give a more optimistic answer, but I don't have it. I think my thoughts and my opinion is very similar to a lot of Palestinians' opinions. I cannot see a very improvement in our situation, honestly, because it's been 73 years of occupation, and 73 years of people getting killed and people, like having this struggle, and there's no real solution of this conflict. Me personally, I will always have Palestine and Jerusalem as a very special part in my heart. For example, when I want to finish education, I want to come back to Jerusalem. I'm not considering to stay outside of Palestine. I want to continue living here, even though it's hard, and even though, I just realized when I went outside how complicated relationship we have with our country, like compared to other relationships outside. I've met people in Turkey from all of the world, with different nationalities. Their relationship with their countries is much easier. It shouldn't be that complicated. The relationship that we have here is if you come to Jerusalem, you will see how many contradictions we have here. We have peace, war, happiness, sadness. We have all the fundamental, contradiction in human soul. We have it in Jerusalem. So it's like a very I see it in a very, like, I see it in the future image is a dark image. I don't see it. I don't see any hope, honestly, because I mean, I witnessed. I lived here for 19 years, and I know the gradual like the policy that Israel is applying here, the gradual stealing of the identity of the Palestinians in Jerusalem, and the gradual change in the streets names and the places and neighborhoods in order to, ethnic cleansing the people here. So this whole thing is not giving me any optimistic, actually, image. And even, yes, people are calling this victory, and yes, I agree with them to some extent, but let's, like, be honest. It's it's a victory in an emotional way. But if we want to look at power, we are not even equal to their power. They are much more powerful than the Palestinians. And I'm telling you, like, we are seeing the states who are interfering with this issue and trying to solve it. They are biased. They're biased from the beginning, and they are biased till today. So even like yesterday, like when Biden came out and said, like, yeah, they pressured Israel to stop the bombing, and he also said something that we appreciate Israel that it stopped the war, and we're gonna continue, funding the Israelis military. So when you see this, it's like what are we appreciating Netanyahu for killing only 200 people? Like, how many Palestinians should be killed in order to take attention of the world to actually like resolve the solution? It's every time I ask this question to myself, is Israel more valuable than humanity? Is it like this? I mean, we are in 2021 now. I think we were supposed to solve this problem years ago. Why we are still asking this question to ourselves now? That with all of these factors that I'm talking about, it's making me very helpless. It makes me very hopeless as well of the future of my country. But everyone should do their part. I'm studying political science and international relations in order one day to actually make a change. And that's why I'm going to continue studying, and I'm continue doing my part, hoping for a change. I mean, but like, honestly, I really, really can't see any light coming, like, in the future with all of this. If there's no real like collective like interfere in the Israeli attacks and the Israeli brutality, I don't think that anything gonna change, honestly, from today. And even it's gonna be worse. Like, I think they will gradually take the rest of the land. They will gradually, try to ethnic cleansing the rest of the people as they did before, and as they are still doing till this moment. So yeah.
Despite the fact that you see the future dark, you said you're pessimistic about the future, you still want to go back to your hometown, and you say you're studying political science and doing your part, and you want to make a change. And I'm wondering that your friends, the other young Palestinians, is it a common view of the young Palestinians now? Do all people want to work for their country instead of living there?
I mean, I would say yes, most of the youth here are thinking the same, but also, like, we cannot ask them the impossible. Sometimes you stay here, you do your part, and you're trying, but at the end, you reach to a place that, okay, you cannot do this anymore. But the young youth here, and we saw this in Sheikh Jarrah, let's say, a lot of youth were there, and a lot of youth were protesting and raising their voices up. A lot of youth were talking to the international media, the CNN, and all of this, to actually try to show that we exist and try to deliver our messages. So all of these people, they will not give up easily. But I mean, I don't know to which extent they will handle this also, because there are a lot of good, like, we have a lot of smart people here, smart people that actually do not find jobs. A lot of people, they don't have any sort of hope in the future, like the normal, in Gaza you have a lot of doctors and a lot of people who actually, they're very, very smart, but what do they have in Gaza? Let's say they have nothing. What the incomes are very low. They don't have the basic standard like living. So yes, like, people are still aiming to come back and are still aiming to make a change, but I don't know to which extent this is gonna continue. So yes, but we hope that we will have the power to handle this even more and more, and make a change in this country, because it means a lot to us. And if you talk to any Palestinian, they speak in a very passionate way about Palestine. As I said, we have a very complicated relationship with it, but we love it so much. That's why we cannot, like, give it up easily. And I mean, 73 years, I mean, proved this, I think.
And I asked you about the Palestinian young people, but also I want to ask about the Israeli Jew young people in Jerusalem, because we saw that there was a march against the war and protesting the Israel's attacks to the Palestinians. There were lots of young Jew people standing with the Arabs. Do you have any young Jew friends there, and do you share opinions about the situation?
Honestly, I don't have any like Israeli friends, but yes, I mean, not even just the youth. If you look at historians, there's a very popular, important historian. His name is Ilan Pappé. He is actually an Israeli historian, and he wrote a lot about. He criticized a lot the Israeli state, and he criticized the Israeli story, and he talked a lot about ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem, and not just in just Jerusalem, in the whole country, through in 1948 and in 1967. So like, to some extent you might find some people who are standing against the war, but you know, to actually go into military, it's an obligation here. So everyone will join this military that is actually bombing Gaza, you know. So they are victims as well. I'm not saying that it's a whole, you know, it's, you know, the person, like, let's say when I go to the West Bank, there's checkpoints, and the people who are standing there, are 18 years old, who are holding a gun or something. So they are stopping me and humiliating me, and he's only 18 years old. And you know, like, all of these things, they are also a victim of a very, you know, larger policy. But you know, like, as much as they are, I think there is a gradual change in the Israeli people, but it's not enough still. It's very, very minimal. And you know, the people that we see that are standing against the war, there are a specific group of Jews who actually do not believe in the existence of Israel. They do not believe that Israel should exist now. So they see it in a religious way. And there are just a very, very minority compared to the majority that actually do want Netanyahu to enter Gaza and, you know, kill, or not, to actually end the resistance and, you know, do something about this. So yeah, like, they, you know, like, what Israel is doing, I just want to say the last thing. What Israel is doing, it's a colonial policy, you know. If there's another book by Franz Fanon, I think his name, he was talking about colonization and how the colonial powers try to root in people's minds and their people minds, like, how do they give justification for them to kill the other side? They do this by actually keep rooting in their heads that these people do not worth living, these people are less of humans, these people are okay to be killed because, you know, you are the modern, you are the civilized, you are the democratic, and they're nothing, so it's okay to kill them, you know. This whole idea is rooted in the youth minds as well. It's a kind of, they are brainwashed, they are from the very young age, they are raised with these ideas. So it's very hard to actually, you know, change these thoughts now. We hope, of course, we hope, like, with these new historians that are coming up and talking and criticizing Israel, we hope more like left wings gonna actually influence the Israeli policy towards the Palestinians. But this stays a hope. We don't know if it's gonna be achieved. So yeah.
You say brainwashed for them, but the march against the war was looking from the videos and photos really crowded, right?
Yes, as I said, like, you know, like, these are the minority that actually from the religious groups, and plus not all of them are Israelis. A lot of them are international people as well, like, they are, you know, coming from, they live in Israel, but they are not like Israelis. But also there is, yes, as I said, minority that they do defend the Palestinians, and they believe in the humanity, and they believe in humans' right to live. And this march that we saw is basically these people, like, you know, going out, but it's still, like, they are the minority compared to the right-wing government that actually is taking all the actions. I mean, it's there, but it's not enough it's not enough yet. We hope it becomes enough. I mean, I really hope that the change can come from the Israeli youth by pressuring the government to actually make a change. But I still don't think that it's enough to actually influence the Israeli government to make any change. So, because as I said, all of the Israeli youth will join the military one day, if or joining the military, actually, it's an obligation for them. So yeah, so one day or another they will hold the gun and they will stop people and maybe kill people, because they train them to do this. They are trained to actually, be soldiers, to actually protect the state. All these thoughts of protecting the national security and all of this is rooted in their minds. But yes, people who actually interacted more with the Palestinians, they might know that they are exactly like them. They are families having dreams, having hopes. They actually are not less. They are not less of humans. They deserve to live exactly like you deserve living. So people who actually interacted with the Palestinians, they might know or reach to this realization of that these people also deserve living.
Thank you so much, Miral. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Today, we had an exclusive interview with a 21-year-old Palestinian, Miral Hamad. Thank you for watching.
Türkiye'nin sivil, bağımsız, özgür ve çoğulcu bir medya ortamına ihtiyacı var. Medyascope, 20 Ağustos 2015'te bu ihtiyacı karşılamak üzere yola çıktı. Ama yolumuz uzun. Bu yolculukta bize Patreon veya YouTube'un katıl butonu üzerinden katkıda bulunabilirsiniz. Destek verin, sizinle güçlenelim.